Indiana in the Morning, presented by First Commonwealth Bank on the Voice of Indiana County, WCCS 101.1 FM and AM 1160. And it is once again time for our interview segments presented by Marcus & Mack, a law firm representing injured people. And as we often like to do on the first Thursday of the month, we welcome in State Representative Jim Struzzi into our studio. Jim, how was your Thanksgiving holiday?
Good morning, Josh, and thanks for having me on, and happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Very nice. If you people who are watching, I've been out in the woods a little bit here recently. It's exciting for me. My 12-year-old son is very interested in hunting right now, so I've been taking him out as much as possible. But yeah, it was a nice holiday. It's good to see things getting back to normal for people, and I'm really looking forward to the Christmas season.
Any luck so far with the hunting? Nothing
so far, but it's just good to be out there in the woods, sitting next to your son.
That's actually pretty good then, because those memories you can't replace.
Absolutely.
No matter what. All right, so you're doing that now because next week you're going to be back in Harrisburg.
Actually, the week after. We return to session on December 13th.
Okay, what's going to be front and center whenever you get back to session?
Well, there's a number of key issues that we'll be discussing in Harrisburg. I have a few bills of my own that we'll be working through the system. One is the liability protection for volunteers who work in our state parks and community parks. I think that's very important. That piece of legislation should be being debated on the House floor. I don't see any issues with that. It is a bipartisan piece of legislature that I worked with several Democrats on, so I think it's a good bill to move forward. Obviously, we'll be discussing the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative again. The Senate had their disapproval resolution that is in the House now. That did pass the Senate with bipartisan approval, as Senator Pittman discussed last week with Todd. We'll be debating that on the House floor, and I do expect that to be passed with, again, bipartisan support because more and more people are realizing across this Commonwealth that RGGI will be bad for Pennsylvania, specifically here in Indiana County, as we've discussed at length. And I think more and more people are realizing that electrical cost will increase, electrical generation will be literally in jeopardy. And while I do support renewables, I don't think we can rely solely on renewables. We need our natural gas, we need our coal-fired electric generation, and for the governor to basically put blinders on to the true needs of this Commonwealth, the jobs that will be lost, the economic impacts is to me unacceptable.
Is it going to take something like the motion of disapproval from the Senate and one from the House as well for Governor Wolf to finally say, there might be something wrong here? Is it going to take it that, or is it going to take something else?
Well, I think that he will ultimately end up vetoing this disapproval resolution, Josh, which is, again, there's been discussion about constitutional amendments and one of those constitutional amendments basically says if the House and Senate pass a disapproval resolution, it does not need the governor's approval. So that's one of the constitutional amendments that will be moving forward. People are fed up with the executive orders. This governor has issued 52 executive orders. The last four governors prior to this administration had only passed an average or issued an average of 16 executive orders. So you can see that something needs to change related to the powers that are given to this governor, any governor really. We have a General Assembly. We have a legislative process that is in place, a check and balances, and that is simply not being followed. So that's the reason that you're going to hear more discussions about these constitutional amendments. It's very important that we, who are elected to represent the people of this Commonwealth, have a voice in any policy or decision that's made, and that has simply not been occurring, not just related to the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, but on many fronts.
One of the other items that's on your plate is the Fair Play for Local Broadcasters bill that you put forward to kind of make things fair and equal for local broadcasters who just want the chance to compete against these national companies that are offering streaming services. Of course, we here at Renda Broadcasting have been affected by that numerous occasions. So I imagine that's also going to come up for discussion pretty soon.
Yes, it will, and I'm very, very happy to be able to help you guys. Mark Burdig approached me about this issue. I was not aware of it, and unfortunately, it's one of those situations where during COVID, it seemed like a good thing for this outside entity from another state, really, to come in and help, share these high school sporting events. But what happened, and I think it was unbeknownst to many of these local school boards and administrations, allegations was that they were effectively, by signing these contracts, pushing out the small local guys. And when I learned about this, I discovered that it was a statewide problem, that this company from, I think they're from Illinois, had come in and basically taken over all of these live streaming opportunities and pushed out the local guys, pushed out our local employers. And to me, that's simply not right. And so I think, being able to move this legislation forward that basically says you can't exclude your local broadcasters from these opportunities, and it's receiving widespread support. I think it's gonna be a good bill to move forward.
That's good that it is receiving good widespread support, and I'm assuming also from both sides of the aisle.
Yes, it is. Yeah,
Excellent.
And it's about local jobs, it's about local businesses, and it's about supporting the people in our communities.
And I think that's something that everybody can agree to.
Absolutely.
All right. Another bill that I wanted to touch on, Cody's
Right.
Law.
Yes.
Because that was another bill that you had introduced a couple of years ago. Didn't quite take off, but you're working on it again.
Yeah, it's already passed out of the House with bipartisan support, but unfortunately, it's been in the Senate now for several months. I'm trying to work with their criminal justice folks to try and move it forward, but it seems to be stalled in the Senate. So hopefully we can, we get past the holidays and into the spring session, we can see that move forward.
We're talking with Jim Struzzi this morning here on Indiana in the Morning, presented by First Commonwealth Bank. Jim, maybe you can tell us what else is on the horizon. Well, I know one word is on the horizon: budget.
Yeah, absolutely.
Budget discussions have got to be starting up pretty soon.
Well, they'll be starting up here after the holidays. Of course, we know that the Pennsylvania State System of Higher Education has asked for a $73 million increase in their budget allocation. We're going to see more of that moving forward. There's a concern. We do right now see revenues coming into the state much higher than expectations, which is obviously a positive. But the Independent Fiscal Office has told us that they are concerned that will not continue, and a lot of that is due to the federal stimulus money that people have been receiving.
Right.
And so there are concerns that trend is not going to continue into next year. So while it seems like we have a lot of money right now to work with in the budget, we're concerned, and as you know, we put aside several $1 billion into the rainy day fund to account for that potential drop in revenues, but we do have to be cognizant of that. There's a lot of people out there who want to see this money used in many different ways, and in some cases it's justified. I do think we need to do more for our healthcare workers, for our home healthcare workers, for law enforcement, for emergency responders. We need to work on funding higher education appropriately, and I'm a big supporter of that. But all these things need to be considered. There's many needs out there, but we also have to make sure that we are able to fund what we need to fund without any tax increases.
And you actually brought up a point that I was going to ask about. If there was, because of the fact that this trend may not continue next year, is there an opportunity to maybe sock some of this away? But you said it, the rainy day account is actually going to help out in that case.
Right, and that's what it's for. And I think it was a smart fiscal move to put that money aside just in case. So we'll see where we are come spring next year when we're working through the budget process. But I think we're in good shape right now. But I do want people to be cognizant of the fact that most experts don't see that trend continuing.
What are you looking forward to in the new year?
Well, I'm really happy to see that we're making progress with broadband here locally. I applaud the county commissioners for using some of their federal money to address the broadband issue. I co-sponsored a bill to allocate additional money to expand broadband across this Commonwealth. I know that there's a lot of discussion continuing about property taxes, a big issue here locally. But we're trying to work through that. There was a policy hearing on property taxes late summer, looking at some possible solutions. It's a heavy lift, but I know it's important to a lot of people. It's important to me, so I want to continue to see that move forward. Returning to Harrisburg, as you mentioned, during that second or third week in December, we're going to have a hearing on a bill that I have that will help address the problems with behavioral health in our emergency rooms. It's a particular problem that was literally brought to my attention here by the folks at Indiana Regional Medical Center.
Wow.
We did a study on it about 2 years ago now. They did an extensive study. A 100-page report was issued looking at the problem. Essentially what it is, Josh, there's not a process for people who come into an emergency room or a medical facility with a behavioral health issue. There's often not a specific process on how to address that, how to help these people, how to get them into the proper facility. And so what my bill does is it basically requires the Department of Human Services to develop a process, including funding to help our emergency room staff, help our doctors, help our nurses, help these people get the proper treatment that they deserve. So we're going to have a hearing on that on December 16th, I believe, in Harrisburg.
And I think another point that you just brought up, the fact that this came from your discussions with IRMC,
yes,
it just proves that any bill that can go on to become a law, it starts as an idea from probably the average Joe or Jane public out there, right?
In many cases, yes. A lot of people approach me, come into the office, or send me an email with a concern. And I am more than happy to sit down and listen to anyone. And if there's a way we can work together to develop legislation to address the problem or to find some sort of funding source, grants and things like that, that's what it's all about. It's about helping local people with the issues that many people may not be aware of. That's how many of the bills that I've sponsored and written have come into fruition. And so there's so many issues out there. I have a couple of bills out there for harm reduction related to drug addiction that I've worked again with Cammie Anderson and the folks at the Armstrong, Indiana Clear Drug and Alcohol Task Force. Mm-hmm. I've worked with our law enforcement entities on a number of different bills. We introduced this week a bill that would provide additional health care benefits to campus police officers, and we'll be putting out a press release on that, I believe, today. So,
excellent. We'll look for it.
Yeah, as you said, Josh, there's many things that need fixed, and in many cases, getting government out of the way, as we saw through the pandemic. If we can ease some of those regulations on businesses, that's what we need to do.
Jim, we're at the mark. Thanks very much for joining us, though, on Indiana in the Morning, and good luck with the hunting out there.
Thanks for having me in, and happy holidays to everyone.
Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas.
Jim Struzzi with us here on Indiana in the Morning, presented by First Commonwealth Bank on WCCS 101.1 FM, AM 1160.
Since the moment you were born,